Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, taking another episode in our Emulation Night School series where I show you how to set up some of the best emulators out there and how to start playing some of the best games for the best platforms. And today we have one that everyone has been requesting, the Sharp X68000. Now I'm doing XM6 Type G as far as the emulation choice is concerned because I find it to be the most compatible when you get it set up. And if you follow all the directions, you'll be playing X68000 games on your PC today, but trust me, this one is a little bit more intensive than other setup guides I've done, so please don't skip around. Watch this from start to finish as I've made it, that way you get all of the information, because if you follow along with the guide, you'll 100% be playing the X68000 games on your PC today. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. And again, I do have that $10 Emulation Night School tier. If you need custom support from me in direct chat, you can always go ahead and sign up and I can help you around the edges, but if you pay attention, we should all be fine. Now again, I said we're using XM6 Type G, and I will leave a link to the website below. It is the most rudimentary of pages. There's really nothing on it whatsoever except a wall of text on a very garish screen, but trust me, this emulator gets the job done. If you want to see a part 2 where I do some RetroArch configuration for X68000, leave me a comment down below. I really wanted to show you guys the one that I use so I know you get the best result, and it'll give you an entire feature set here as well. It's going to emulate the entire line of X68000 computers all the way up to that 68060 Turbo, which for the most part you're not going to need whatsoever, but I'll go over all of the system configuration as well, because trust me, you want to be playing X68000 games, and considering an actual X68000 PC is an incredibly expensive proposition. For the most part, I'd say 99 of 100 of you are going to want software emulation. If you do have a Mr. FPGA, I have guides there as well. It isn't as fully featured as this emulator is still in development or kind of stagnated, but it is an option as well. So you'll see here, we're going to go to downloads, and there's going to be at the top the link. That's the only file we need to grab here. Don't grab anything else. Just go ahead and download the most recent version as of the making of this video that you see right here on your screen. That's all you need to do. It's going to bring down a zip file, and that's what we're going to use to install. It's going to talk about IPL ROMs and human 68K version disks as well, but we're going to get that from a separate source that I'll talk about a little bit in the video. So go ahead and make yourself a folder. This unzips, it doesn't install, so it's going to live anywhere on your system that you want. That file that you just grabbed, go ahead and extract the file into whatever directory you would like it to be in. That's where the system is going to live from now on. You'll see it's going to go ahead and create a folder, and for some strange reason also creates a nested folder under there, which is fine. Just one of those things. It's kind of how it works, and you can delete that zip once you are done. So go ahead and open up the folder that just was created when you unzip that file, and you're going to see an identical folder inside of that. Now we're going to see XM6G.exe, but if you run it now, it's going to yell at you and tell you you're requiring two missing ROM files, IPL ROM.dat as well as the CG ROM.dat. We need to add these into the system here, and that's something you're going to have to find on your own, because of course I can't link it, or if you need help, there is that Patreon as well. But you'll see here X68000 ROMs. We're going to go ahead and grab that file, and we're going to open the archive just so we can see everything that's in here. It has more than you actually need for the emulator, but some of these can be useful. So go ahead and unzip this file into the directory where XM6, the executable, lives. Just go ahead and open it, hit extract. You can hit extract here as well on the drop down folder menu, and you will now see if we go ahead and do that and hit OK, knowing that we're in the same file folder, all of these files are going to populate exactly where we need them to be. Go ahead and extract them, and now you'll see all of these different .dat files are inside of the same folder as XM6G.exe. This is where the emulator looks for the files. If you put them anywhere else, it's not going to make the connection, so make sure you put the files in the correct folder where the executable lives. When you execute it a second time, go ahead and double click on XM6G.exe, and you might get an error message about the SCSI ROM file and real ROM data. You can go ahead and ignore this. I've never had an issue whatsoever. Just go ahead and click in the future do not show this message and hit continue so it doesn't continually bother you. Not sure what's going on there under the actual hood, but it's just one of those things that always pops up. The next thing we're using is a comprehensive hard disk image here, SXSI-SCSI, and you'll see it's V301. This again is something you're going to have to find for yourself unless you want my private help. So go ahead and hit extract here, and that's going to extract 4 different hard drive images to the same folder where the XM6 executable lives. Now we have 4 different virtual hard drives that we're going to string together in the actual emulator as virtual SCSI devices. And that's when I say this can get a little bit intensive, but trust me, if you set it up correctly once, you'll never have to think about it again. And if you've skipped around in this video, go right back to the beginning and watch it from the start. It drives me nuts when you guys skip around. You ask questions that I answer in the videos, so please just do me that favor and watch this from start to finish if you want to learn how to do this. If you come up to the options here, you're going to see a bunch of different things we can select, but the one we need to do is under tools. You'll see here you can switch to Japanese as well, which you probably don't want to do. You'll go ahead and go to tools all the way at the bottom and hit options. That's going to bring up everything we need to set this up. At first, what I recommend to do is to go to the XVI or 16 model. That's going to up the actual clock speed to 16.7 megahertz, and I'd say 99% of games run totally fine with that additional boosted speed. If a game is running too fast, you can pop in here and switch the clock down to 10 megahertz, which would be the stock X68000 CPU speed as the original model shipped. But I've never hit a game that had a problem with the speed, but if you do have that, go ahead and change it up. And as far as the main RAM is concerned, dial that right up to 12 megabytes. That is the maximum RAM you can have. And again, I believe there's one or two games that might fight you on this, but I've never actually found them. So for the most part, I feel completely confident doing this for you guys. You can go ahead into the sound tab and just leave everything as is. You don't really need to change anything around. On the keyboard, you can kind of see how the virtual keyboard is set up paired to your Windows keyboard, because remember, some of the keys on the X68000 do not adhere to Windows standards. A mouse should work right off the top. You can leave that alone. Now, as far as binding a controller to this thing, it can be an absolute mess and a half. You'll go ahead and just select a 2-button by default. That works for like 95% of the games. You can switch to 6-button as well for Street Fighter. You can use Joy Key or you can use controller. It'll recognize whatever you have, but when you hit setup, half the time it's just going to yell at you of required resources unavailable. Go ahead and restart your entire system and do it again. It should work. It is just very weird and it can be problematic. Now I want you to go into the SCSI menu, or SCSI, and you'll see here this top arrow will set a new drive. This is where we're going to designate the virtual hard drives we had, but remember, they're in 4 different parts. We're going to go ahead and set disk 1 as the first option here on ID 0, and then we'll go ahead and add the rest in just a moment, because this is broken out in 4 different hard drive images, so you're going to have to mount all 4 of them and switch between them within the actual OS viewer you see in the emulator. You'll see that even on the README file gives you a listing of what is on every single hard drive. I mean, maybe you don't want the F drive media, but C, D, and E you're definitely going to want. So go ahead into SCSI. We've already mounted the primary drive. Keep hitting this up arrow. You're going to see a couple SCSI mode drives and CD-ROMs. Go past those until you see ERR for error. Double click on that and mount the second hard drive. Go ahead and click up again. Double click on error one more time and mount the third drive. Hit arrow up one more time, and of course error. Double click and we're going to mount the 4th drive. Now we have all 4 of the hard drive partitions mounted within XM6, so go ahead and then just reset by hitting file and reset. And pretty much anytime you want to change a game, hitting file and reset is quicker than trying to back out. So now you will see we're in the C drive, but this really isn't where any of the games live. The retail games are going to live on the D drive, and all of the fan games are going to live on the E drive. So you can kind of see you have this navigation window. Up, down is going to move up and down. Enter is going to execute everything. Backspace will remove it, and it even gives you a drive listing here. All the retail games are on D, and all the fan games are on E. So you need to actually change the drive that you're on to get to the games, and this is where I feel like 99 out of 100 people get completely confused. Whenever you're on a screen that isn't a README here, when you're on that main file directory, you're going to go ahead and press the letter L. You can see we have a couple options at the bottom. You can play around with the mouse, but from here, if you hit the letter L, you're going to get the drive selector. Go ahead and move over to D or whatever other drive you want. If you want to move back again, just hit the L key on a keyboard and then go ahead and select the drive you want to be on. It is very useful to have a keyboard obviously very close to you, because you're going to be navigating around that way. And then from there you can go ahead into all of the different folders by genre, and if you want to play Castlevania on X68000, just go ahead and execute start.bat with the enter key. Start.bat is basically the way you're going to execute every single X68000 game. If you've paid attention up until this point, you're going to have controls, you're going to have sound, you're going to have all of the things you need to play X68000 games on your PC, and you're going to have those 4 virtual hard drives mounted. Like I said, it is a little bit of an intensive setup process at the start, but if you actually follow along and get everything set up correctly once, then it will be there for you every single time you load up the emulator. If if you double click on the executable, it'll mount that C drive. You use the letter L to go ahead and navigate to D or E to find your games. You go into the folders and you hit enter on start.bat, and you'll be playing basically the entirety of the library of the Sharp X68000. Now again, you're going to have to find those ROM files and the hard drive files yourself. I can't link them here on YouTube. It is not something I am permitted to do, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out. Again, if you need help, you know where to find it. But the Sharp X68000 has a metric ton of fun as far as games are concerned, and every single time I want to play via software emulation, I use XM6 because once you get it set up correctly, it is absolutely rock solid stable, and there really aren't any glitches in the emulation whatsoever. Leave me a comment down below and tell me, have you ever played any X68000 emulation, or is this going to be your first time around with it? And like I said, this one's probably 401 level as far as Emulation Night School is concerned, because it can be a little bit difficult or tricky to put everything in the right place. But again, if you pay attention to this tutorial and you do not skip around, you should be playing Sharp X68000 games at home. And like I said, if you did skip around, go back to the beginning and start again. These tutorials are structured in an order, and I see so many comments asking, how do you do X? And I just give them a timestamp because I know they basically bypassed it. If you have any recommendations or requests for more Emulation Night School episodes, leave them down below. But we're done. Go set this up, play some X68000. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.